Testing. Aloha kākou. Mahalo for joining us at today's site visit. We'll start with a pule by Kahu Velma Mariano.
Aloha. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That's close. That's about heights in prayer. Father God, we thank you. We're about to get together, Lord God. Against each other, Lord God. But that your will be done today, Lord God, as we come together. Homesteaders, hear our request, Lord God, and protect us today. We thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. The meeting of the Hawaiian Oaks Commission is called to order. The meeting is being held live and in person at the Kawaiola Temporary Housing Development in Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii 96761. Carl Watson, Chairman of the Hawaiian Oaks Commission, and today's date is Sunday, November 17, 2024. The time is
10:09.
10:09. Leah, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Kalepa,
Here.
Commissioner Kaneakua,
Hi.
Commissioner Lasua.
He's here. He just stepped off for
Okay, he's here. Commissioner Marfil, Commissioner Nevis,
He's stepped out too.
and Chair Watson.
Here.
6 members present. We have a quorum.
Okay. In a few moments, I will introduce you to Kalani Frunda and the DHS Deputy Director Joe Campos. But before that, I want to go over today's agenda. Today's site visit features 3 DHHL projects: Kalaiola, Puʻuhona, and Kamalani. At each site, staff will provide a project overview followed by the commissioner questions or comments, and then public testimony. To testify, please sign up with staff and keep your comments to 3 minutes when called. After the public testimony, I will make closing comments and recess the meeting until the next scheduled time. We ask all attendees to promptly exit the site once the recess is called.
Aloha, good morning, everyone. So we're going to share a little bit about what's happening here in Kalaiola as well as in 1B, Leiali'i 1B. So we kind of wanted to start with Leiali'i 1B to kind of give you a understanding of what's happening and progress that's happening in that area. It's been a while since we've actually had from the Leiali'i 1A and now starting on this side. So I was going to ask representatives from Dowling to come here and kind of share a little bit about that, and then right after that I'll ask Deputy Director Joe Campos to kind of share a little bit of what they're working on here, and then kind of our next steps of how we're anticipating that transition afterwards. So with that, Everett and aloha.
Morning. Darren, you want to lead us through it?
Darren Okamoto from Dowling Company. Leiali'i 1B is 181 lots on 50 acres, just Mauka of the Lahaina Civic Center and across Leiali'i Parkway from the existing Leiali'i 1A. So as part of the project improvements, there's improvements off-site for Leiali'i Parkway to open both sides for access to the subdivision, in addition to widening improvements on Honoapi Highway for the 4 lanes each way, or 4 lanes total going down to Leiali'i Parkway. In addition, there's off-site drainage improvements. For the off-site runoff that flows from the Mauka into the property, there's a diversion ditch that routes the water instead of going through the homes to off-site basins, Mauka the property, that are then piped underground through Leiali'i Parkway. Been a lot of progress on the project since everyone in Lahaina needs permanent housing. I think in November 2023, the EA was approved by the Commission for Leiali'i 1B, and then in June of 2024 this year, as part of these project improvements, the Honoapi well EA was processed to and approved by the Commission in June of this year. So just very excited time. The construction plans have been submitted to the county and the state for respective review and approvals, and then pending permits, we will be starting construction on the project next year. So, thank you.
Great. Take questions?
Yep, Commissioner, any question? Commissioners? Anybody in the public? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Speak right into the mic, please.
Thank you, Everett. Appreciate sharing about 1B and what's happening, exciting things that are happening there. The next is Deputy Director Campos. He's going to come and share with you guys just the work that's been happening here. We'll have an opportunity to also kind of visit one of the units that are in the back of us, and then we'll share a little bit about what's happening post Kalai'ola. Wow.
Speak right into the mic, Joe.
Aloha everyone.
Perfect.
Joseph Campos, Deputy Director, Department of Human Services with the state. Welcome to Kalai'ola. Kalai'ola translates as a place of peaceful recovery. And as we conceptualize this, it was the governor's intent that we do provide a place for people to have peaceful recovery, those who have been impacted by the wildfires. So either that they were displaced because their homes were burned, or they lost their income and thus were not able to pay rent. So those are the two main forms of being impacted by the fires. Kalai'ola, was originally this land is HHFDC. There has been the discussions about converting it over to DHHL. They are working on that agreement so that in 5 years when this project is complete, and that's not 5 years from now, but 5 years from August of 2023, August of 2024. So basically through August of 2029. At that point, September of 2029, it will be converted over to DHHL for them to do with it, either keep it as is or work on their plans, whatever the beneficiaries and the commissioners want. Right now, the way it's laid out, it's designed in a community setting of 450 units. However, the governor is interested in decreasing that to 405 units and making 45 units available for ADUs so that people who have property can put the ADUs on their property and start building their homes. So it'll be approximately 27 pods, just like this. The pods each have anywhere between 14 to 17 homes, depending on the mix of the units. It's designed so that, again, it is that community. They are within, close proximity, so that if there are large multi-generational families, they can be together. We already have 39 families living in pods 1 through 4. We have about 8 more that will be filled in on those pods, of which 3 are beneficiaries. We also have an additional 7 beneficiaries that will be moving into pods 5. This is pod 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we have worked with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to get their list of beneficiaries that were impacted by the fires. And that's a list of about 67. We are going to be doing more outreach to the beneficiaries because only about 29 applied. Okay, so we want to make sure that the beneficiaries have the ability to come here and be here for the 5 years, and then whatever is decided when it converts over to DHHL. The units run anywhere from studios, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedrooms. And we plan that everything will be completed through March of 2025. So at March of 2025, we'll have the 405 families here on property. The rent is paid for by the state. This was important to the governor, that it will be paid for through August of 2025. At which point then the rent will be highly subsidized. Okay, so we're still working on that, but it goes until August of 2025. So I know that some people in the community are saying, oh, it's a year from when you enter. It's a year from August of 2024. You know, so if people come in February or March, they'll only have through August of 2025 their rent paid. It was important for me to also have landscaping. All of the plants that surround the units are native varieties. We have, you know, the native white hibiscus. We have a'ali'i and a variety of other plants. So it's important because I think landscaping brings a sense of peace. In addition, if you'll notice, when we go around, there's going to be silver planter boxes or metal planter boxes. So each family, each house has a planter box that they can make their own. You know, so again, it's all about community building and giving a place of peaceful recovery. And so with that, if anyone has any questions, oh, sorry. I forgot, I saw Archie and he said, make sure you remember this, and I almost forgot. But we are also doing a community center, a resiliency center, as well as a health center. Again, that will be on the other side of the gulch. So when you come up Leiali Parkway, where you turned right, it'll be straight ahead. Will be the resiliency, community, and health center. Okay? Yeah.
Just for clarification, these particular units, we are trying to, especially beneficiaries on the wait list that have been displaced or impacted adversely, as a place where they can kind of access and use. The thing about it though is, you know, with Leiali Phase 2 coming up, that doesn't mean you're taken off the wait list or anything. By far, nothing happens on that. Now, if the project should be finished and you decide that you want to move into that one or some of the other projects, Puʻuhona or whatever, and you know it's finished before the 5-year period, you can leave and move into your permanent housing. But again, this is kind of like a transitional, temporary shelter that is available to our beneficiaries also. And so we, thankfully, DHS and Joe has been very receptive and supportive. So, you know, those that are out there, you know, please take advantage of this opportunity. For the first year, it's free rent and in a good location, close to where our future developments are going to be. That's the only thing I wanted to say about, and just for clarification. Then later, after the 5 years, we are looking at turning this into a Phase 3, where this becomes, again, homesteads, similar to Leiali 1 and 2. And then also on the sizing, you know, we're not going to be issuing out these smaller pods. We're going to reconfigure it and make it where it's consistent in size with the homesteads we're awarding under Phase 1 and 2. Okay, so that layout is obviously going to involve us kind of changing the layout of what's here now. One of the things that we're also looking at doing is recycling some of these units, maybe putting them together at a very significant discount or maybe even major savings, whereas if you were to build your own home, it costs you. So by recycling these existing units, and there's other units, if it makes sense, then that would be an option where you could save a lot of money and also get a homestead. So there's a lot of good things coming down the pike, and I'd like to thank Everett and Darren. They're doing a really great job, and we look forward to working with them as well as with Joe. So the future is yours to predict, and we do have some people that have questions. We'll start with Sean Connie.
Come on.
Speak right into the mic, please.
One of my questions was.
Hold the mic up, please. Thank you.
I am one from Lahaina to transition out into the big island temporarily. But I learned about the catchment system. Water in Lahaina comes a certain time of the year. So I thinking, we should offer it to our people to look into catching the water. I don't see any, gutters or anything on here, but without water you can't sustain a lot of things. So that's my biggest thing is Lahaina needs to, we need to plant vegetation that helps with precipitation and also catch the water here. And that's my biggest thing is to help our people to be more sustainable. The fires was a big eye-opener for me. So I thank all of you and I look forward to the other projects. But this one is a big one for me. So, yeah. The aunties gave the minutes to me, you chickens. But anyway, some of the other things that we want to talk about, I went to the PAC meeting, and one thing that I learned was insurance was going to be hard for us here after the fires. The one thing I learned about the fires was being diversified, learning things outside of that, and that was taught by visiting the outside islands. The struggle was after the lava flows and then the families up here that lost their homes 2018, insurance and reestablishing themselves was hard. So attending the PAC meeting opened my eyes about what was happening all over the world, not just Hawaii. Some of the people took steps to opening small insurance companies on their own as homeowners associations. They got together. They built a community where they opened their own insurance company so that they could make their money work and put their money back into the communities. The Koreans were doing it, the Japanese were doing it, associations, you know what I mean? They have to think outside the box. And we had that conversation about that. I bring that home to our people too. Look inside ourselves. Old days, we all used to help each other. Remember those days? Somebody fell down, you went over there and you offered a hand. We need to do that here in Lahaina. You're not going to get insurance that's going to be cheap. So how do we do that? Plan the community better, offer vegetation that helps to bring the participation back into the atmosphere here. From dry to bit more wet, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, or fortunately, my community keeps sending me back to classes. So now I'm in the Lee Green class here in Maui. How do we make our buildings more green? Working with the windows, catch water, everything. I think I had a guinea pig, so my aunties over here would make me the guinea pig up here too. But the object here for Lahaina is we can do it, but we need to work together with the department and ourselves. But this is a great setup. Some things I see that might need a little bit more attention. Windbreak plants, to help with the windbreak. Little things like that helped when I was part of that fire. Working that fire was nuts. So most of you only see what was on TV. To be on the ground that day was chaotic. Nobody wanted ownership. So how do we take ownership? It starts here. Planning the community, being part of the steps, being part of that community setup, looking for the vent out. We can't make everything go to the ocean when we have a highway on the top here. We need other access out. And we need people on the ground that live in the area that know how to get out. We're putting people in the ocean to swim where the tide is going to Kīhei, and you're swimming against the current. You can't do stuff like that. It comes from people who live in this community. 120 years, our family home here, gone. What didn't we learn from 2018? Nobody took charge. Nobody used that information to better the community here. So now, I ask all of you, please, please take a look at that paperwork. Take a look at it and see where we can make improvements. Use the gifts that you have in this community. The people that are constantly taking your classes, the education to make all of this work. It makes you look good. It makes all of us look good. Hawaii can't be Hawaii without Hawaiians. If we all move away, what's the point? I ain't moving away. I'm not, and I don't think these ants are gonna move away either. So I aloha all of you, but you keep giving me mana'o and I can do it. This is the community I like living in. Even if it's a pod, you can dig a big hole after I gone, and you can put the pod in the ground too if my kids don't like them. You know what I mean? But it's what we can afford. And you cannot afford Hawaii if we don't live together. So, I mahalo you. I haven't seen you for a long time. You don't remember me, but I'm a Nanukuli. I was raised in Nanukuli. But I'm a Maui girl. The Lahaina, my God, people, what you see on the news was nothing. To work that fire that night was unbelievable. The chaos. The people that we put in charge that had no plan, no common sense. So, I mahalo all of you for bringing me back here. I love you all. And I hope today is a great day. In the back, I wish to see catchment. I had to learn the catchment from the Big Island, so I know we can do it. We have backup water plans, it can be done. Planting ulu and breadfruit trees all on the back line to help with precipitation. And then local plants will help sustain our grounds here with more water. That's the important thing. It's really, really important because without water we cannot do anything. Nothing. So, anybody next? Come on. Put on your Superman.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your very constructive comments. Let's see. Janice?
I yielded.
Oh, you yielded. Okay, how about Robin?
Speak right into the mic.
Aloha everybody, thank you for coming out. It's really great to see familiar faces and some new faces. When we drove up here this morning, I was elated to see, one, that we are doing something for our Lahaina wildfire survivors. Two is being here on this aina gave me a lot of hope for what we can look for here on Maui, because we know there's a lot of development. It's nice. I want to commend the department for the work that you folks have done, in spite of the struggles that we've had here on Maui. I wanted to speak upon sustainability. As we know, as Kanaka, he ali'i ka aina, he kawa ke Kanaka, we are the servants of this land. And so if we have anything to give, is that we malama this place that we live in and live on. And me being a food producer and a farmer, one of the things I look at is sustainability, is how do we provide for nutrition with all this acreage that we have. How do we, it's nice to have this ho'onani plants around, it makes it pretty, but at the end of the day, we know as Hawaii, knowing what we experienced during COVID and the continued food shortages that we have, and the amount of work that our state and our county is doing to help provide food security. So for me, my mana'o is that I would like to see more food plants here, things that we can eat. Ulu, of course, malulu olele, that's very important for all of our Hawaiian people. But making that, if aina is the most important thing, then we must malama aina. And that means that we need to plant things that is nourishing to the people who are managing that land. So kudos to all of you for the work that you've done. Mahalo Shana for your mana'o. But I'd like to see more plants that we can use for wood, use for utilitarian purposes, use for to feed our lahui, to feed the people that need food. It's important because if we don't have nutrition to provide for our people, then we're gonna always struggle, and we're already struggling as it is. So mahalo.
Thank you very much. Let's see, the next person wanted to put comments. Grace Gomes?
I yielded to Shauna.
Oh. Well, did we have Janice? Eric?
I yielded to Shauna.
About Kainua McDonald?
Aloha, speak right into the mic.
Aloha mai kako. Mahalo for having us here. I'm so happy that our beneficiaries gave us their Sunday to come up and ride the bus with us. So my comments would be that this 5-year term that's slated to turn over to DHHL in August 2029, we'd like to see that the neighboring Hawaiian homestead, Leiali'i, have the highest level of beneficiary input afforded to them every step of the way. Because ultimately, Leiali'i is the one that's going to be impacted both in their neighborhood, highway, traffic, and just overall sustainability that both Robin and Shauna had shared. So when we're advocating not just on the wait list, but also for neighboring communities that will be adversely affected. Also too, we'd like to see the best use of the units. I heard some really good plans. Sometimes that plan doesn't always get completed at the end. 5 years is a lot shorter than we've ever seen homestead plans. But I'd like to see that trust monies, can be an option to help with either subsidy at the second year and beyond, and then also perhaps even the future rental payments to assist beneficiaries. That's always a huge hurdle for beneficiaries, which is the opportunity to purchase. And so I like the plan that Governor Green is looking to set aside the, $450, but it's good to hear that beneficiaries, I hope, will be absolute in their opportunity to receive that round. So mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, Virginia Gordon.
Speak right into the mic, please.
Hi, I'm a beneficiary for 40 years. I just wanted to see this project be made available to our beneficiary after the 5-year term for traditional housing, if it's possible. Thank you. Mahalo and God bless.
Let's see. We have a past commissioner in our presence, Randy Woe. I always like to hear from this guy because he's such a deep thinker that you should really come up here, Randy, and give us some of your thoughts, man.
Speak right into the mic.
Mahalo, Kali, appreciate it. There's so much to say about how this has evolved. I will acknowledge when this was first landing here and the concerns that our beneficiaries had regarding the impact to them below. I didn't make it easy for Joe because I had a lot of concerns about engineering for runoff, wastewater management. But what I see here today is quite an achievement. It is a really well thought out opportunity for families in crisis. And so I stand in deep gratitude for what this has become. I do look beyond the 5 years and think through what this may mean for our beneficiaries, because this is a pathway to transitional housing for beneficiaries in need. For example, if we can use this as an opportunity for them to save, to subject them to financial wellness classes, to prepare them for future permanent housing opportunities, this is a beautiful, beautiful pathway for that. So I am grateful. I thank you all, the entire team who has helped to create this. I look forward to the potential opportunities it may provide to our Native Hawaiian beneficiaries. And I do appreciate the mana'o that our beneficiaries have provided here today. I think sustainable living is a really important issue. The planting here, native plants, that's really a nice thing to see. But we should also think through fruit plants, plants that provide shade, like ulu, that also provide food. And we can do that now, but this is a really good start. I had a chance to go Mahawai, go Ni'ele in one of the units. It's beautiful. I'm going to sell my house to come live here. So that's all I have to say. Mahalo, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
So one of the things I remember Kupuna told me, you know, enough with the banyan tree, we're more concerned about the ulu trees. And we actually have ulu planted. Unfortunately, you know, they're seedlings, you know, so it may take many years, but at least, you know, we do have those planted. That is part of the landscaping that we have. One of the things I know Kalani mentioned, you want to talk about the future? Yeah. So all of the infrastructure we're doing here, the main lines are permanent. Okay, lateral will probably have to be changed if this changes. But all of the main lines are permanent. It was said that we actually sped up the future design of this by 17 years, you know, because of the work that we're putting into it. And it was a whole of state approach. Yes, Randy, you talked with me for several hours, but you know, it was all designed to be collaborative, dialogue, figure out what the beneficiaries needed. And I think that's one of the great things about being in Hawaii, right? Is that it's not DHS, DHHL, we are the state, right? And so just thank you, everyone who had comments. You know, even though I still get comments, it at least helps us move forward. So, go ahead.
Aloha again. For the record, Kalani Fronda, Acting Administrator with Land Development Division. Chair had shared kind of what's happening post 5 years. So we are, you know, the great thing that you guys have shared is it does require kako. It does require all of us. And so on a weekly basis, there is a number of different agencies that talk start. They kuka on what's happening in transitional housing throughout the island of Maui, but more importantly, what's happening in West Maui, and then also what's happening regarding infrastructure. So infrastructure is key. Water is important, as you guys know. We have about 17.5 million that's going into West Maui, specifically for water. And so we have a number of different homesteading kind of community zones that we have here in Leiali, as well as Honoapi. And so those processes are happening. We're collaborating with a combination of DHS, HHFDC, also with the County of Maui and other departments, because we know how important it is to collaborate, not only from resources, but also financial resources. So bringing all of that together to make sure that there is attention in regards to water for West Maui. We also have another 16 million for other parts of Maui that we are investing in for the purpose of improving our water infrastructure. So what's happening here kind of post 5 years, yes, it's gonna take some time, but we don't wanna wait till end of 5 years and start, because then you're gonna have a big gap in between. So we're starting now. We're starting the process of what it looks like. You know, one of the great things that Joe mentioned was taking a look at the existing infrastructure. When you guys looked up here before, actually you can look at the other parts of this area, the 400 acres. It's all blue rock. So these guys actually have to, and some of you in Leiali, you heard it and smelled it, but they got to blast the blue rock. So it takes a lot of that stuff. And they already went through the process. So mahalo to them for kind of going through the process to really help us quicken on getting our beneficiaries here. And so now, right now, we're just kind of overlaying that, what it'll look like, as Chair had mentioned, something that's consistent size-wise with what we're building on the island of Maui. Mahalo.
Thank you, Kalani. Let me also add that, you know, in addition to this particular project, and in addition to our phase 2, we have quite a few other projects totaling over 1,200 new homesteads that are going to be constructed in the coming years. We have the Puʻuhona, that's 161. We have the Wailuku, that's 207 units. We have the not the Kīhei, but the what's the other one? Mauka, that's about 311 units. We also have the what's the one in Kamalani, that's going to be about 400. And then we also have the Honoapi, which is, you know, some of you were talking about growing your food. Well, in that particular approach, which we're actually doing some awards in Maku'u and Honomu on the Big Island, involves subsistence ag lots. That's something that is more in line with, especially what Randy and Dennis were talking about, in getting our beneficiaries back to the Lahaina, to, you know, grow your foods, as well as feed your families, as well as have livestock. And so those are approaches that we're kind of expanding, in a sense that it really is a situation where you not only can get a bigger unit because you have a bigger parcel, to build a bigger house, so you can have a collection of family members, a HANA, all in one location, but having access to a larger piece of property to grow food. And so we've been working with the College of Tropical Ag, as well as Human Resources, to not only make those different types of homesteading approach available, but provide the expertise, especially in the type of plants and whatever that is best suited for that particular area. So we're doing that with all of our subsistence ag lots, as well as looking to provide funding to build the homes. And in some cases, you know, it's kind of isolated areas, so that's where catchment comes in. That's where septic tanks come in, and some other approaches that are somewhat, I would hate to say burdensome, but ways that we can still make our lands available. And let me also add that in closing, you know, we are looking at expediting these awards, and a lot of people call them paper leases. The thing about the paper lease is it gives you, the beneficiaries have been waiting 40 years for a homestead to at least have a lease. And it may take a little bit longer to actually build a house, but we're going to actually make paper leases available for all 1,200 something units. And so we also will be doing presentations or orientations as to the time schedules for all these different projects. But you will have the ability, those of you on the wait list, to choose whatever projects you want, with understanding that, you know, there's a timeline. So if you want something built now or accessible now, maybe you do the Puʻuhona project and you choose that one. Or if you want to, you know, do the Leiali, that it's going to take a little bit longer, but that's going to be available. The Waikapū Mauka is going to be further off. But again, you know, if there's an area you like, make your informed choice, knowing the time frame, but more importantly, getting that piece of paper, so that if you should pass away, you know, your beneficiary can be only 25% Hawaiian, versus those that don't, and then the entire family, because of your death, lose out. So that's another major change that we're going to do. So what I'm saying is we're accelerating the awards, we're accelerating the developments because of the 600 million we have, and we're using more innovative approaches on the financing. And that's where I think we as a group need to not only let our beneficiaries know, but more importantly, beneficiaries, especially those on the wait list, get active. You know, update your information. Because I've had people call me and say, I didn't get anything. Well, that's on you. You got to provide current information. If you don't, and you get bypassed, that's on you, not us. Okay. So it's an exciting time. I'm glad you guys are here to kind of check out this transitional housing that's going to eventually be phase 3 for our Leiali homestead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Connie. So before we tour, I'll just tell you about them so that I don't have to be yelling. Okay, so we're going to look at the units behind me, right, which is the nano nests. These come from China. They come where they pull it right out of a shipping container. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And what happens with the 3-bedroom, 2-bath is they put 2 units together. Then we're going to go across the way and we're going to look at the Factory OS units. Those come from California, and those are built to code. Okay, so they should be easily utilized and repurposed. The blue ones are the 1-bedroom, 1-bath. The green ones are the 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And then in between is the Kauhale development, also from California, studio. But that's kind of used more, it's going to be used more as like a 3rd bedroom, right? Or a 4th bedroom. Or if it's a large family and they have all 3, then, you know, it'll be designed that way. But if there's a single person, you know, they can also have that. All right, so that's what we're going to see. That way I don't have to be yelling. I'm open to any questions you guys have as we tour them. All right? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so we'll start.
Site, we're reconvening the commission meeting, and we're located at Puʻuhona. And I'll turn it over to Darren and Everett. You get your maps up there as well as where we're at. You can explain.
Stand over here so the wind doesn't blow out my drinks here. This is really the fun part. This week we transition. I mean, it's all fun to me. I love what we do. I'm blessed to be able to do it with people I get to do it with in the department. These projects are all you can see. Nothing we do, no type of development we do is more satisfying for us as a company. This is nice. So, but I enjoy it all. I really enjoy this week. This week was very moving the dirt, putting the utilities. It's not quite as satisfying as we start seeing things like out of the ground. So it's this will be a lot of fun. Yeah, why don't you give the overview of this and also what you go about it.
Yeah, so welcome. This is Puʻuhona. We're on 48 acres in Waikapū, 161 lots. This project has been in inception since 2019. So this actually originally wasn't Hawaiian homeland plan. This was something that Everett had talked to the landowner, was able to lots shows the public-private partnership and also a partnership with a nonprofit like Habitat for Humanity. Another way for beneficiaries to get involved in. And then the other banking lots are winter builder, so that's for beneficiaries that say want a bigger home or a smaller home than what we're able to offer. So it really tries to hit all the different ways and all the different prongs of getting beneficiary families. In addition to as part of the project improvements, if you look up at the mountain, you kind of see in gray there's a water tank around the mountains. As part of the improvements for Puʻuhona, because the community did not have adequate storage, the department worked with the department to build a $500,000 not only adequate storage, water storage for our next project, Waikapū single family. So this is similar to Puʻuhona. This land was on DHHL. It's another opportunity that Everett and Dowling Company was able to create for the department through the marketing process. This is Puʻuhona here. So just Mauka is an additional 204 lots and 77 acres. So just in this one area, that's a lot of families that do have homes in central Maui, close to the hospital, which you can see, close to Food Line, which is a walk down the street, jobs, friends, family, all in this great location. And then switching back to the third project, this is Mauka. So the old Macklin Fields, old what they call the HAWAIIAN project. DHHL closed on this property end of last year. So this is 238 acres. Right now it's proposed for 398 lots, 343 single family, which is what's shown in yellow. And then in blue are slightly bigger half-acre lots. So it allows the beneficiary and their family to have small farms in their backyard. Between these two projects and also the project that we're working on, it's 140 lots. So it really is an exciting time, and I appreciate the commission, the department for partnering with us to get these homes built. And on an exciting note, like Everett said, literally tomorrow, Reggie is going to start going out for the first homes. And the first beneficiaries for Puʻuhona will start moving in the summer of next year. So very soon. Really is an exciting time, and I appreciate everyone for coming out. We're excited. Thank you.
Like this is for Gio. Gio is actually responsible for building the homes. He's the project manager. He's going to work with Brian Griffin. He's the man for the next year. I want to add one more thing there in comments. These properties, all three of these properties, you look around, you look that's a maybe, it's not funded, but that was initiated by Representative Kamalani.
Also trying to get that triangle.
That's where we are now. Puʻuhona is a 48-acre site, and it's a portion of a 60-acre site. This triangle, the owners of the property wanted to keep that portion of the property. So we are trying. This is not a guarantee by any means. We are attempting to purchase this property, which would be, it's right in between the two homesteads as a potential community center site for these two projects. So it's working. I do have a favor to ask all of you. We're in for a grant to help. It's a federal grant. We've applied for this grant 3 times in the past. We've gotten all 3. We filed our application. Let's see, Jack, when did we file the application?
First quarter of last year.
How many pages is that application?
So,
We applied for it. We'll find out in 3 weeks, 3 days. If we get the grant, we'll be able to, right now, the homes, the 2-bedroom homes in Puʻuhona start at $411. If we get the grant, we'll be able to do 2-bedroom homes at $275. And so, when you say your prayers, raise and include in your prayers that we get this grant, because it will help a lot of people. That makes the homes affordable to people, right? At 30%, which is, would be a really wonderful deal to do
Well, my question is for.
use the microphone, please.
Sir. My question is for Commissioner Johnson. We talk about the leases. My understanding was the leases were supposed to be for undivided interest properties, not for the that. Say the leases are just being handed off, but shouldn't there be a system as to what the carrier? I mean, you can't. This new generation, you know, say, hey, you go in that, you just think in random, everything is done. That's not how
There'll be a
here,
process.
yeah. So, but it just says we're getting these leases, but my understanding is for undivided interest.
So the leases are paper leases. You choose a project you want. And it's like for Waikapū, it's close to 400. So if that's the site you want, knowing that it's going to be maybe 9 years off, and you decide you want one there, you get a paper piece for that. It doesn't specify the specific lot. That comes later. We go through the process of vetting. Assuming you're the one that has chosen that agenda. So we'll give you a paper lease rather than 8 years from now. You're going to do now. So maybe a couple of years prior to the actual committee, we start vetting the people with these paper leases. What are their income? Would they qualify for turnkey? Or I want to build my own computer. Let us know. And also for those that are lower income that can't qualify for that $100,000 mortgage, put them in another category. Or if they want to work with Habitat. So you have these 4 different categories that will be defined as we go through the people that have received the leases. And then once we have those categories that they develop, that will dictate its capital stack. You have to, for the live tech adoption purchase, say there's 60 that fall into that category. So he'll go in each HFDC to get his money for that. The others, we will probably provide funding for the infrastructure, but on the vertical construction, we'll be working with maybe Hawaii community lending. They'll go through the financial background of that individual, see if that family qualifies for an AHAZA loan, a loan, a 247. So we got all these different categories, kind of turnkey. 30 lots, which are first round. They're going down the list based on your date of application and selection that way. More importantly, you'll get your paperwork. So if something should happen to you, rather than having a situation where your heir is 25% Hawaiian and you die before you get a paper lease, the family gets sick. We're trying to avoid that. We're doing these, we call it undivided, it's more like unspecified parcel, but you are selecting that particular project. You got all these different projects to choose from. And again, knowing the background as well as the details of each project, you have that information so you can make an informed decision as to what to do. Okay, so we'll be going through that. That will be happening in the coming year or so. We're doing that in Maku. We're doing that. You know, we got 23 projects. These are not the only projects we have. We have 23 involving over 7,520 new consent leases. So there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of awards that are coming. Okay, let's see. We got some people that wanted to ask questions. Kaino, McDonald.
Mahalo. I think my questions are going to be geared to the Puʻuhona Hawaiian Homestead Association. So, Noi Asuiga Stark is the association president. She took over from Auntie Debbie Mahuna. And it's been a long haul, I'll say, to engage with the beneficiary community. And at its inception, the association was specific to engage with those who are on the undivided interest lease list on Maui. I know she and I actually have the list of names and where they stand on our phones, so we can pretty much like automatically pull up a name and some other information. But I think what I do want to say is we ask that the department and Dowling work with the Homestead Association, because I think we've done a really good job on connecting with a lot of the undivided. They had a lot of questions on the early onset in terms of pricing. They helped us to advocate on Nahasda, to get Nahasda into the hands of the beneficiaries and not other sources like developer financing or other property acquisitions. And so one of the questions I actually had for the developer, and I'm not sure if I'm in the position to ask, but I really wanted Darren to speak to the kind of material that was used, and I think it'll be super, super helpful that you explain the reason why the type of housing that is being built actually will protect beneficiaries for years to come. So I want to put that out to you and put that on record and have that open communication between the Beneficiary Homestead Association and myself, the waitlist organization, so that we can work more collectively and not make random decisions for beneficiaries. So thank you.
Thank you for that question. So when we approach a project, and we approach the previous Hawaiian Homelands projects we've done before, Waikapū and then also Leiali 1A, we had gone to the Leiali 1A about a week after the fire. Met with Archie and Anthony out there and talked to some of the beneficiary families that were out there. Because as we know, the 104 lots, I think only 2 homes burned. And what we were told by the families was that's because a tree on the non-DHHL side caught fire and fell onto the homes there. And it wasn't a sickness, but the families had told us it's because of what we put into the homes. There's a level of standard that Dowling Company does when it comes to a home. So we put hardy plank fiber cementitious siding instead of wood siding, and then we also do asphalt shingle roof with a higher design life than just the standard. And they had told us that's one of the reasons why they felt their community was safe and was spared, because the fire basically went around the community but not through the community. So when we set our housing prices, any housing prices, we're always critiqued. It's too high. That's what everyone says on every project. But we try to make sure that the standard is there for safety for the beneficiary families. We're also valuing doing what we can to bring the housing prices as low as possible to get as many people qualified as we can. So $411 for a 2-bedroom, up to $699 for a 5-bedroom. So similar homes, if we look at, would you grab or show them? So for Puʻuhona, we're right here. This is Kamalani Drive. Just north of Kamalani Drive is Kamalani. So that similar size homes, similar size lots are going for 1.3 to 1.5 million. So we are doing what we can to keep housing prices as low as possible, but still meet the minimum standard when it comes to
Just to add to that, we're also looking at new methods and new approaches to construction. Earlier this year, we at Boston's suggestion, we met with a company called Waikapū, which does robotic 3D printed homes.
Another thing too, taking that in mind, is I want to put it out there to the commissioners, you know, that we're coming around to another round of NAHASDA, and really think about the implications that beneficiaries are in, especially those kupuna who are at the top of the undivided interest wait list. They're in their 70s. A lot of them have one income. And so we really need to take heed on what other types of financing that we could make available to them, so that they can get a lease and get on the AINA in time, so they're not dying on the list and they're passing it on to their successor. We have to think more generationally. You know, I'm not going to point any one commissioner. I just implore every single commissioner to really take these things into consideration, because the current undivided interest for Maui anyway isn't quite working the way they thought it was going to be. And I think Noah and I can speak to them, really intimately, because they are in a disparage, that they can't, they won't be able to afford the next coming homes, and they're giving up. So what could we do collectively, both on the homestead side, beneficiaries, and the department, so that we can make this, the next couple phases, which is going to be beautiful, make it happen for kupuna who are afraid now to die off the list. So mahalo.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Virginia, Gordon.
Okay, it's back to the paper lease. We wanted to know are they going to make policies that's going to ensure the rights, that our rights are going to be protected, and how will it be used?
which they had been living in. So their takeout mortgage actually ended up paying less than what they were paying in rent. So again, it's an approach to ownership that would not otherwise be available to. So the department has to get innovative, and this is a very, very popular approach to across the nation. It's not being done here in Hawaii to the detriment, I think, of the general public. We're using it for our beneficiary. We look to doing more of it, and then they've also changed the rules. It gives preference to our projects over other projects, So again, it's a good approach, and to answer Kanoa's question about the okay, Virginia, you got any other questions?
Do you know when, I guess when is that paper lease gonna take effect? Cause like, what if they're like, okay, like I'm 65. I don't know how long more I might be having, and I don't even have that paper list. And then my kids won't have that because they don't have that quantum of class. So does my part be diminished because I don't have like a successor?
Accelerate this program, these projects you just saw, as well as the 20 other projects across the state. We're going to accelerate this because those some people just like you. When you pass away, when the project is not finished, your kids can step into your shoes. It's very important that this thing move forward, and we're doing it as fast as we can.
Right. So we're gonna get like notification through the mail.
Notification, right.
Okay.
Okay, I guess the next person, Janice, Derek.
I had a question about this. I assume I know nothing about it. Just true. Could you please explain it pretty concisely? Undivided interest. So what's the difference between that and unspecified lots?
It's the same thing, actually. We do have undivided interest, like we're doing a project in, we call it Kauai. Undivided interest that the recipient receives, besides on the townhouse, it relates to the conditions that are underneath
December 20th. We'll be dropping the letters for that. The meeting is scheduled for January 11th. That'll be for the orientation meeting. And then the lot selection
questions for the developer? If not, I think we're, oh, you guys.
I have a question. Actually, two questions. Everett, this question's for you. You asked the beneficiaries for help in the federal grant that you're applying for. What kind of help are you asking?
I asked for prayers.
Prayer. Okay, you got it. Thank you. The other question I have is with regards to the question is, how will Maui, as opposed to what's
everything to single family. What you look here is going to be, it's going to be 2 phases that we're going to do over a period, I believe, of about 4 to 5 years. Okay, hopefully faster. Okay, now the next first phase is going to be 150 units, and the second phase is 250 units. Okay, now what you see here is pretty flat. It's been graded. Okay, what we're going to be doing is elevating the site, largely because concerns about flooding that comes out of the gulch that's adjacent to us. So our engineers have planned to elevate the site sufficiently where flooding would not impact any of these houses. Secondly, thanks to Mahipona, they basically have allowed us to have a retention basin on their property, okay, which we're going to flow any surplus drainage to. So the drainage issues seems fairly under control, okay, and we're also getting the fill material here from that retention basin. With regards to sewer, the county, we checked with the county with some modest improvements. Everything here is going to be sewered directly to the county, so that's not going to be a problem. With regards to water, we have several different options available to us right now. The first option is there is a well site that we've already got basically access to and an easement with. Okay, that's going to be basically located further Mauka here, okay, and it will provide sufficient water for this entire project. But that's plan A. We have a plan B, okay. We've been working with the Maui County, along with Mr. Everett Dowling over there, on possibly giving a way to give access to additional well sites in upland Maui that will basically service all of the Hawaiian homeland properties. We're still in the process of negotiating this, and although it will take years for it to be developed, our negotiation is that they will give us advanced water credits. Now, the benefit for Hawaiian Homelands, if we're able to negotiate that, is that we don't have to maintain this well, okay? Which will save the beneficiaries that maintenance costs. There is a plan 3, is because Maui County is suffering from the lack of water, they are considering possibly taking ownership of this well, including the reverse osmosis system that it supports, which means we still get our water, but we don't have the maintenance costs. I don't know which way it's going to turn. Now, this project will give us 400 units. The interesting thing that I think people might question is the lots are going to be 5,000 square feet. It's smaller than what's normal on Maui, but the whole point is we need to satisfy as many beneficiaries as possible. That's issue number 1. Secondly, I'm not sure most of you realize it, but the reason why most of the neighbor island lots were 75 and 10,000 square feet is because we had to accommodate, okay, for cesspool, okay, for the leach fields, which we do not have here, okay. We further take seriously between Maui County and the chair. They obviously have this program here for kapuna units, okay. Now, everything really depends on availability of infrastructure, sewer and water. We made a commitment that we will put in as many as we can, as long as it does not trigger additional need for infrastructure. So it's not going to be all the units, but there'll be some of the units. And it's too early to tell us how many of those that will be allowed. Now, as you can tell, you know, I've heard a lot of complaints from people. Okay, first of all, okay, an EIS has been performed. Okay, soil studies have been taken. Everything in terms of pesticides and fertilizer are below DOH limits. Okay, we'll continue to test as we go along. Okay, and you know, obviously we're next to Mahipono, the agricultural fields. They're working with us wherever possible. Okay, so I'm open for questions at this point. Yes, ma'am.
About the deer access.
Deer?
I mean, yeah, because there's a lot of deer here. I mean, I've seen them all up through here, and we did the high school, so we had a lot to deal with. I mean,
well, Mahipono mentioned some of that, and the answer is going to have to be fencing. That's all we can do. Now, obviously, they're trying to eradicate as much of this as possible too. So they have a program going adjacent to us. So I'm going to have to rely on them. It's their property. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
What's the proximity of Bayer, Monsanto, to this
Monsanto no longer has any control of property in this particular area that I know of. Everything is Mahipono that's adjacent to us.
I'm kind of curious as to whether they continued the research that Monsanto was doing. How clean is that property? Because you know, you're right, like right up against it, and we all know on Maui, this has been a huge issue. There's been lawsuits they've won against, you know, Monsanto because the ground was considered contaminated. There were like, you know, birth defects and all kinds of stuff. So I'm kind of concerned about, do we want to put our people like in danger? Is there a possibility?
All I can say is we've done the tests and it's below Department of Health limits. Beyond that, I can't tell you. I'm not a scientist.
How close are we though to?
Right next to.
Right next to. Is there like a buffer zone or something?
No.
Okay.
So is this lake known for flooding, is that kind of thing as well, coming down, you put this bump up?
Absolutely. That's why we're going to raise the property based on the engineering estimate of the flood. So that's one of the first things we dealt with, is making sure that we protect our beneficiaries from any flood impacts.
Any more questions?
I just have a question. Ray, where is that settlement? Where are you showing that settlement?
It's going to be right around here.
And that's where Mahipono is?
They've already granted an easement for the detention basin and also the access easement to take fill from there to raise our property.
So some of the community concerns, you know, about, pesticides and so on and so forth. That's a settlement pond. It'll settle in the pond. It's right next to this project. I guess
It's drainage.
it's drainage, but through the soil, through using pesticides, the drainage, the water is
All I can
polluted.
say-
All I can say, okay, that is a concern amongst the community. That's all I'm saying. That's why I wanted to know where the settlement.
First of all, I think the only way to resolve the community concern is to constantly test to make sure that we're below the Department of Health limits. That's all we can do, okay? And we've already done that to make sure that before we even acquire the property, that we don't have that problem. Now, you know, anecdotally, everyone's concerned about pesticides. I mean, there's pesticide, PFAS, you name it. Everything is around us, okay? Now, you know, you have two choices. You remediate or you do nothing, okay? And for now, as long as we're below Department of Health limits, there is no requirement to remediate.
Where does this project sit with the rest of the projects? What's the timeline? Or I don't know if you're sitting at the previous.
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
The answer to the thing is, in theory, this could be faster, but it really depends on a number of things. One of them is that we're in the process with the Land Use Commission to make sure that they are okay, that we need no further studies in terms of the environmental assessments. So that's already scheduled for, I believe, February at this time.
So how often does that need to be tested? So say if it's below and we move forward with the project and then you build the project and then you have our people on there. Are you still testing?
Mike, first of all, you test to see if there is something there. We're not adding anything more. We're not doing any fertilizing. We're not adding, it's not in agriculture anymore, it's housing. We're going to compact the soil and basically it is what it is. So the only thing that could change is if the Department of Health standards change. In which case, generally speaking, you're grandfathered in because you were done under a previous set of rules.
So I guess I want to direct that question to you, Chair. How much can you solidify the people who are going to become lessees here that soil is guaranteed
we
to
wouldn't
be...
build it if, you know, it endangers
Well,
our
that's the
people.
thing we're asking.
Yeah, we're not
So
gonna
the
do that.
responsibility, you're
The
not going to take
responsibility
home.
is on us.
And you guys
And,
got to take home.
You know, I used to be a litigation attorney in construction, all kind, including my wife with the Bentley case, and you know, I'm very familiar with litigation, and that's one thing you don't want. It screws up your financing, and more importantly, it's a reflection on where you made mistakes. So before we even start construction, we're going to make sure that there's compliance with the DOH. These are the guys that monitor, and you know, they also are part of the certification process, including the permitting. So I can assure you, we're not going to build anything if there's any danger to our beneficiary. You know, I give you my word on that, because you know, with litigation, it not only not screws up, but it basically terminates your project. So why would we get into anything where there's that risk? We're going to make sure there is no risk. Now, adjacent property, that's something we got to take a look at. You know, I don't know what the answers are, or whether we got to do a buffer zone, and how is the retention basin going to operate, such that if it accumulates some of the pesticides, is that can that be filtered out if there's migration of that water onto this site? I don't know. So those are the kind of things we need to examine, get our consultants on board, figure that out, and then we're only going to proceed when we're satisfied that we can build that project in a safe way. It does not expose our beneficiaries to any kind of health issues. So that's the only way we're going to do it.
By the way, just to clarify, we're not the development team. We're not outsiders. We work for the chair. We are looking out for the department's interests.
And he's the one looking out for all of us. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
if I directed it to him, that was a purpose.
Oh, I understand, but I'm just simply mentioning we work directly for him. So
Yeah, Ray has a certain way of saying things, so you understand the guy. His heart is in the right place, and you know, he used to work for Seiko, and they did large scale developments, and that's what I got to do is I got to go at the large scale level so I can get more people off the wait list. That's why we're going to do this over 7,000 new homesteads. This is the kind of guy that, including Shireen, they're the kind of people that we got on our development team that can move the projects forward quickly. So while he gets into the weeds a lot, we need that sometimes. So I feel comfortable that we will do our due diligence, make sure that the project is done in a safe way, and we accommodate and address any issues that might pop up regarding the retention base and pesticides. Is there going to be what kind of activities is Mahipona going to do adjacent? Is that is going to be pesticide spraying, that kind of stuff? So if there is, then we're going to either enter into some kind of agreement where they won't do that, or I don't have a problem walking from this project if there is that real danger that our beneficiaries will. We're paying about $10.5 million for this site, and so it is, as you can see, this is the first phase over here, and I do like the way they did their multi-units, but on this one we're going to do single family, all 400. So there's a little bit less density than originally planned, but it's still, if you look at it, it extends. You see that large trees to the right? Well, that's right here. So this property goes all the way around the corner. So it's a large piece of property. That's why we're going to accommodate 400. But that's 400 people off the wait list. And hopefully, assuming we can get over those hurdles regarding pesticides and what have you. Once we get over that, we got to do our due diligence, but there's also, we do it in a way that complies, because we're going to have the federal funds, and so they're pretty strict. They require environmental, they require NEPA, all kind of stuff. They require testing, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to do. So just rest assured that we're not going to proceed unless we feel comfortable that our beneficiaries are going to be living in a community that's safe.
Because when you say low, right, and say right before we get the okay and whatever you're testing is low or to standard, is it like we just made it low? Like, you know what I mean? Like what?
First
that's
of all,
just my concern.
It's below Department of Health standards. Now, first of all, we're the ones who are monitoring this and working with the consultants. So they work for us, not the other side. So obviously, we're looking to make sure that the results are honest and fair. Mm-hmm. Okay, because we want to make sure there are no problems here. Okay, and thus far, there are no problems. Now,
they don't want another Red Hill incident.
Yeah,
For real. That is for real. Because that's what's going to happen.
No, we're not going to get worse than that.
The bigger concern, which we will keep in mind, is the retention basin obviously will get some flows from Mahipona's lands. Okay. Now, I have no access to their testing because that's their property. But that retention basin overflows into the gulch, which hits into the waters of the United States, in which now it falls under the federal government. And they can monitor on their own, and they can also enforce against Mahipona if there is anything on their property. But thus far, that has not risen as an issue. But for us, because we've already done our testing, and we've also done testing on the fill material that's coming in. So I'm pretty comfortable we should be there.
Can you walk us through the water credits again?
First of all, let's hit the 3 plans. Plan 1 is we dig our own well. The well, our water expert has planning, there is sufficient water from that well to support this project. We need to go through reverse osmosis to reduce some of the salinity. We've also incorporated that into our plans. Now, that way we don't rely on anybody, we have our own water. But it just takes more time, okay? And that's what I'm trying to beat here is, I don't want to waste that time. So if we can find a way to get advanced water credits from the county, okay, then we can speed up our development. And this negotiation isn't just on our project, it's with Everett's projects also, because right now, Maui County is pretty much going through this process of reducing water by 10% across the board. This is going to abate that 10% reduction, which will impact all of our projects. Now, bear in mind, the chair has pounded me over the head many times, because my job is to make sure the water department recognizes that we have a priority. Okay, but as much as possible, we're trying to work with them, because thus far they've been very cooperative, okay, and see if we can find a resolution to this issue. Any further questions?
We've got some people signed up. Okay. Oh, these. Okay, how about familiar names? Noi Shigo Stark.
Thank you. Where does this project lie with the rest of the projects in
order.
in years? Yeah, in order or years term.
Probably with the Wailuku. Probably, I think it would probably match up with the Wailuku that Everett's doing.
So I think Everett kind of went through that succession of the schedule of what it looked like, and he said this is kind of roughly around the single family, Wailuku single family time. So it's Puʻuhona, 1B, and then this Wailuku single family. Waiʻu Mauka on the end of.
We might be able to speed it up, especially if we get the water credit issue resolved quickly.
Is there any money that's being diverted from any of the coexisting homestead projects that are already started is being funneled out at any point, or are they locked in to the funding that's supposed to be there, like
For the credit.
yeah, you know what I mean? Because say you had 105,000 or million in Waiʻu Mauka and 200 million in Lahaina. Is all of that funding in place to complete the necessary construction and plans that are going forward? Or do we divert some of that money from one thing to another to get one project complete? Because my understanding about how budgeting works is if that budget is in place for that project, it's for that project and to the completion of that project. Should other things be needed for that, or more added money into that project, comes out of the next physical, year of legislature, or so be it, like you're asking for not us moving money from one project to fix a problem in another project.
That's a great question, and part of it is you're correct. There's some projects that are moving quicker, and so we kind of went through that line. 1B does require a little bit more monies, so we are looking at some of the Waiʻu Mauka because that's at the back end. It's going to require some time to do the site work and a lot of the reports and so on. So moving the monies, and one of the things that Dowling had mentioned was we're ready on 1B. We're moving forward, but we need this additional monies. So you will see some strategic moves like that for shovel-ready projects, homesteading projects that we want to move now. And then, as Chair had mentioned, we're aggressively pursuing not only just appropriations from ledge, but also from the federal spaces as well. There's a lot of monies that are out there, so we're aggressively pursuing those, and we have teams that are pursuing different types of funding.
Shouldn't accountability and that process and the beneficiaries be kept in the loop at all stages? Because I mean, we have been engaged for years. Some of us have been prior to microcon and so forth. But what we have seen is so many problems. I hate to sound like a broken record, but we see the promises and things happen, they fall out, but there is not a lead then, to the beneficiaries to let them know, hey, we got you guys. This is the plan, and we have this money coming in to replace that money. We just don't see it on paper and in all the commission meetings that we've been at.
Yeah, one of the things, it is a somewhat evolving process regarding certain projects being ready, others being more shovel ready, and certain ones where we've allocated money. For example, we took 25 million from our Waiʻu Mauka, and we're using it for construction financing for Puʻuhona. And the reason why we're doing that, which is a loan to the developer, is that the developer would otherwise have to pay for that. And he pays interest on that, which he passes on to the homesteader in the cost of the house. And so rather than just letting that money sit in this project on the back end, we're using that money to reduce, and how much per house would you say, Everett, we're saving by going that route?
Borrowing the $25 million from Wailuku Single Family Residential, in our cash flow, we were borrowing from First Hawaiian Bank. We had a loan term sheet from First Hawaiian Bank, and it was 7% interest. That would have added $19,000 per unit for the houses. So when Kali offered to let us go to use the Wailuku Single Family encumbrance, which we are not going to get to until after Leiali'i. So borrowing money at 0 interest enabled us to lower the cost of the houses $19,000. And then as we close those sales, that money goes right back into the Wailuku Single Family Residential budget. So and we wouldn't, otherwise the money's just sitting in an account, and this way the beneficiaries benefit from all the prices.
Yeah, let me say, this isn't a kind of a unilateral thing that Kali wants to do. No, we run it through the commission. We have these PIG, or Permanent Interaction Groups, usually 3 or 4 commissioners that look at our strategic plan and lays out how we're going to spend the $600 million. And it's very detailed. It's project specific, dollar amounts, units, everything. And so they go through it, and you know, where we put out 3 RFPs, we got proposals like Everett's, and we added that to the mix. Well, we started out with a certain type of units, and we kind of had focused mostly on the use of our existing lands, which we all know are very marginal, isolated areas, very costly to develop. So we came up with some really good projects involving new lands. We used part of the $600 million not only to get better lands, less costly to develop, but more desirable for our beneficiaries. Because not everyone wants to live on in Waianae. You guys want to live in Waikapū, or looking at Kamahiwa, and and Lehui. So we're very active in better using the funds, and that was allowed under Act 279 to 600. They allowed us that flexibility, which has turned out really well in the sense that we've acquired new lands. But we've gone through different changes in the strategic plan that reflect all these different changes for the better to make the projects more viable. So from 21 projects up to 23, involving over 7,000 homesteaders, when we originally were only doing 3,100. So just by making these changes, we've increased the number of beneficiaries that we can take off the wait list. And we, that's the whole idea, using money smart. That's why the governor brought me back, because of my developer experience. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and so I felt that it was a privilege and opportunity to really move the program along, and that's what we're doing. And that's why when people from the private sector have also joined me, we put together a team that really are developers. Some people might not like that; they have this bad impression of developers. But I got to tell you, when you got to build something, you want to talk to developers that know what they're doing, and do it in a way that uses the money most efficiently, knows financing, knows house construction, and working with contractors and developers that know their stuff. Everett is the best, to me, developer and contractor on Maui, for sure. And so, similarly on the different islands, we have other developers like that know how to finance the projects the way that's needed in order to help more people. So, I got to say, with respect to your question, it's not a solid in concrete, these are the projects. It evolves for the better. We only make changes, and it always has to go to the commission for approval. We can't just unilaterally do it. That's why we have the PIG. They vet it, they have meetings, they talk to the consultants, they talk to the staff, and they analyze what's being suggested regarding the changing of the use of the money. And then they make a recommendation, and then we take that recommendation, which the full council, all 9 members, vet and make a decision. And so that's how the process works. So yeah, it evolves, but I think to the better. Okay. Let's see. Janice. Correct. All right, Janice.
So I still have some concerns, like when it rains, runoff. I know you have a retention based on that's still a concern, and does the department have money set aside to remediate in case there is a danger, the levels increase beyond the DOH standard? What are you going to do then if the houses are already up, people are already living in there? Is there money set aside to take care of that? I don't need an answer because you got to think about that probably. But I wanted to ask about, so it's my understanding that 3/4 of the people who were interviewed about preference where they want to live on Maui indicated central Maui, proximity to work, schools, business. And is there any way to bring forward Waihu Mauka and put Kīhei like the opposite side? I know there's more work to be done. I know you said there's more work to be done.
You can talk the man back.
I know you said there's more work to be done, but is there any way because that's what people want. And if we can, shouldn't we make people happy? I mean, I know they're going to get a lot. They're going to, that's like a dream for most people. But how about the ability to live where they can? Can we do something about that?
The engineering isn't done on Waihu Mauka yet. We're just we'll be ready to submit our construction drawings on Waihu Mauka next year. And the community out there has some concerns about traffic going through Wailuku. So the county of Maui has issued an RFP last year to do a roadway extension. So it's going to go from Lower Main Street, right beside St. Anthony School, the Old Hall Road. Then it cuts across by the post office, goes over the bridge, and connects back to the highway. We own the right-of-way beside St. Anthony's, and when we sold the property on the other side of the bridge, we kept a relocatable 44-foot roadway easement. So in order to facilitate the construction of that roadway. But the county's really just starting their engineering also. They hired SSFM engineering firm. So I think from a community respect standpoint and just being a good neighbor, the goal is to come online with Waihu Mauka at this close or at the same time as that roadway extension occurs. So that's really what's influencing the timing. So it's Puʻuhona, Leiali Phase 1B, Wailuku single family, this project, and then Waihu Mauka. And this project's actually, we're not the developers of this project. This is Gentry Homes. Gentry Homes is, of all the home builders in Hawaii, they're the one I respect the most. They've been building homes. It's a family-owned business. They've been building homes for 54 years. They do really nice designs. They do really outstanding designs on smaller lots. So they're the ideal company for this project. We're in discussions, and we're always, it came up at the last meeting, cost. And we're always looking for ways to improve quality, but not, lower the cost, but not at the expense of quality. So we're in the process of starting a home building company with Gentry here on Maui. So there's going to be 1/3 the Gentry family, 1/3 our family, 1/3 the Goodfellow family. So I think we think that we can shave off maybe 3% of the cost for Leiali Phase 1B. And the thing with those three companies involved, there's a steady flow of product. Goodfellow's got 1,000 units out in the high-tech park. So given the Lahaina rebuild, the ability to control subcontractors and promise those subcontractors a steady flow of work means that you get the best subcontractors. So having them do this project and bringing it all together, the three companies together, we think it's going to allow us to secure the best subcontractors and lower cost.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, well, I'm actually gonna go two ways. I'm gonna try to stay on track and not go off the rails. Act 279 in the November submittal shows that there's an ask for spending 10.5 million. Yep, 10.5 million, and then with an additional 38,122 out of Act 279. So part of Act 279, and because Uncle Randy's not here, I'm going to echo what he says, is, you know, the 2020 survey speaks to the areas and the percentage. I think it was like 30 or 70%, you know, that wanted to reside in other areas like Wailuku and Waikapū. So can you help us beneficiaries walk through your thinking process in terms of spending and then getting these development agreements encumbered? So.
Well, when we figure out the different projects, when we take into account a lot of different things. I mean, it's not just the cost of the land, it's the cost of the infrastructure, the demand. Demand is very critical. You know, that particular survey done in 2020, to me, wasn't really as accurate as people might think, in the sense that, you know, where is the demand? You know, if we were to follow that survey, we'd do maybe all our projects on Oahu. That's not the case. We got, you know, over 4,000 just on this island on our wait list. So we gotta, and you know, we actually need about $6 billion to answer and address the 29,000 on our wait list, which we don't have. And so we have to make choices, and we do take into account, to a certain extent, the surveys, but we also do additional surveys. So the whole idea is to be responsive. And I think one of the key things is the location of these projects. You know, we located them in a great area across from Kīhei. You got a lot of amenities, schools. You know, and in this particular one, we're going to put in a passive park, and as well as you know, tied in with all the different housing surrounding us. But that's part of the process. Is we look at a lot of different things in making decisions. Like I said, it is a very involved process that looks at the infrastructure, looks at the demand, looks at the cost of, you know, or the number of units we can build. It's pretty involved. I mean, we could go through a couple workshops to explain the process, but it is somewhat involved. And so we have the PIG. We have the commissioners go through almost a two-tier process in coming to a decision. And we've gone through that. You know, this started way in, I guess it's October of last year. And so 1 year later, we're still, even this month, we're going in for another change. And that relates to the Royal Kunia, which is another great project at the price we're getting it at. And then there's some great, and it's on Oahu, which is where our biggest demand is, and where we have a lot of needs. So we're using part of the money to go after that.
So just to reiterate also what Everett had mentioned, we also look at ways to collaborate with other agencies. So where we can join in and look at joint efforts on infrastructure really makes a big difference for us. And so how we start to position things. So we're looking at that a lot as well. It's like, hey, Maui County is doing this. Let's see how we can reduce our costs on roadway improvements, on this portion, on water, etc. And so being very mindful of that helps us to really take a broader look and bring the cost down of how it gets passed on to our beneficiaries as well.
And I hope, as a comment, that you would continue to bring beneficiaries to the table. Continue to ask us and include us in these kinds of talks, because, you know, we're in it right with you. We're in the canoe. You know, sometimes, you know, we are in waiting mode, gotta bail water, but we're here. And I think I do want to see more inclusion with the beneficiaries. I know sometimes we may not always show up, but I think we can do better. Yeah. Thank you.
That's it.
I have a question. Sure. Do I need a mic or?
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. My question is regarding the property. You know, Hawaii has been here for millions of years. And knowing that you're going to try to mitigate or find a way to somehow be able to provide some way of raising the soil to where homes could be built. My concern is that Haleakala is notorious and is known for major water storm, and that water comes right down into this entire region. Tell me how something like this can exist with homes when we can visually see that there's a basin and almost like an outflow of water coming from the Mauna. It's a concern I think that we all should be aware of, because we know that the waters are torrential here when it's raining, and it's something that we need to consider should we decide to put people and properties here.
I am very familiar with the torrential rains on Maui. I was on the Grand Wailea project, and we had three major box culverts adjacent to the resort when there were heavy rains in Haleakala. When I went to them in the morning, after I finally did the inspection on those box culverts, that morning they were all gone. They were ripped out of the foundation and thrown into the ocean. Absolutely understand what this is about. But the big difference is the flow that comes down. One of the good things is we have sufficient distance and we have agricultural fields that basically will absorb the bulk of the water and it spreads. Okay, so the impact of that, if you're close to the mountain, your impact is huge. We are quite a distance away and almost all the land is agricultural. If all that land ever becomes urbanized, which I doubt, okay, then you might have more accelerated flows, in which case what the Army Corps of Engineers will require is that you channelize it into actual channels and eventually bring it to the ocean. So understand, there is a master plan for drainage that is being supervised by the counties and by the federal government that assures that doesn't happen. What I'm concerned here is not the flow from Haleakala. It's the fact that this gulch overflows. Okay? We have scientific evidence on how it overflows. We are mitigating for that by raising the house pads, which is a normal process. Every project I've worked on, we've had to basically probably raise the ground floor elevation of the houses to make sure that there are no potential problems with flooding, okay, because of drainage overflowing. So this is a very common issue and is being dealt with across the board in most parts of the United States. But I do understand your concern about Haleakala. But again, just look at the distance and look how the water will actually. And the thing is, one thing I do know is there are gulches along Haleakala, and they do accelerate, but they go to certain areas. Okay, and we've accommodated for that.
Thank you. And I also want to thank everyone for being such amazing stewards. I mean, you know, I think we identify who our community is, and I want to say thank you for being in my community, because it's the collective group of, you know, of everyone making these decisions, talking about it. So thank you so much.
Okay, that brings the site visits to an end. I'd like to also thank all of you for participating. A lot of good comments, all constructive, which is what we're looking for, constructive ideas, and you know, we'll take it to heart, what you've, especially on this site, you know, this environmental and the pesticides, that's a real issue, so we'll take a look at that. And then, you know, we, as I mentioned, are going to keep most of you informed. We do have a website, we do have commission meetings that are Zoom, so you can jump on and actually participate. So do keep informed. Like I said, a lot of projects coming down the pike, and for the gulch. That was a joke. Not too good. My wife always said, "Golly, don't joke." Anyway, we have a commission meeting tomorrow and Tuesday. So if you have any items, we'll see you there. And then thank the commissioners for taking a Sunday, as well as staff, to be here and assist in this presentation. Mahalo.
Can we get a picture? Is that possible? Is that possible under here, and then we can take someone can get a picture of us under the fence?